So you've gone from being the front runner to someone that's now chasing and trying to catch up a little bit in that new field. And so every athlete faces this because we all, retire young,
Right.
In your 20s or 30s. And so whatever you do next, you're going to be the one at the bottom of the pile trying to climb the ladder,
Right.
which is difficult when you've been in front your whole life.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to F5 Women in Business. We are very excited to have with us Christie Jenkins today, who's here on a very rainy Los Angeles day from Australia. And we're going to talk about all of the things that she's involved in, her mentorship, her leadership, the athlete's mindset. Really exciting to get into that. And we're so happy that you're joining us today. And Christie, so happy that you're joining us today. Thank you so much for braving the Los Angeles rain for today.
As I was saying earlier, it's summer in Australia right now, so I feel a little hard done by coming to LA and it's raining.
I know, especially since the beach volleyball world is where you really like to, and you're staying in a perfect area right now for it. So sorry that we put you through that, but
Forgiven.
Yeah. Well, let's go. Something I would love to ask you is, first of all, you are an elite athlete across trampoline, CrossFit, and beach volleyball. How did those three sports speak to you? And a little bit about your background as well that probably leads into how you got involved in those.
My parents actually met on a trampoline.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yes, I am a little scared to ask how I was conceived. So trampolining was my first sport. I started when I was 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
My parents bought a trampoline for the backyard, and one of my neighbours was actually very good at the sport and suggested, oh, you should take her down to this club. They've got great coaches, put her in lessons so she's safe in the backyard. And, before you know it, I'm coming home and doing backflips and probably making my parents a little bit nervous. So that was sport number 1. I did that for 17 years.
Wow.
So a very long time. Was 12 times national champion, went to 5 world championships, top 10 in the world, had a very incredible career in that sport.
Wow.
And when I hit my early 20s, I sort of felt I had done everything I wanted to within that sport, but it is very hard to give up the identity of being an athlete.
Yeah.
And so I still wanted to be an athlete. And 23 is old in athletic terms. And there's many sports you'd be just way too late to start. And so I made a list of the sports where you can peak in your 30s.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I was like martial arts and sailing and rowing and, beach volleyball made the list. And actually my family, my mum, my dad and my brother all played social competitive beach volleyball just locally. So I knew some coaches and I kind of went and did discovery and I went and spoke to the coaches and I was like, hey, do you think I could have any potential in this sport? I've never played before. I used to do trampolining. And they were like, well, you have, some of the right physicality. You obviously jump high. And I just was like, okay, well, I'll just give it 6 months and I'll see how I go. And then I'll make a decision either way. And so I went from never having played this sport to, and in fact being tragically awful with all balls, to training 8+ times a week.
Wow.
Which is an unusual way to start a sport, right? And I was tragically bad. The ball would get set in the air and I would jump in the air and swing my arm and just miss completely. And people would look at me and they're like, but you look so athletic. Why are you so bad? So lots and lots and lots and lots of coaching required in that. But a couple of months in, one of the top players, actually the top player in the state, kind of took a look at my trajectory and was like, you're very crap now, but I think you're on the right trajectory. Do you want to play the next season of the national tour with me? And so that moment was sort of the commitment moment where I'm like, okay, I'm sticking with this sport.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the second sport. CrossFit was an accidental one for me. In a sport like trampolining, you do all your strength and conditioning at training. And in a sport like beach volleyball, you're sort of expected to do that on your own time away from the beach. And I just thought the gym was very boring. I'd never worked out on my own before. And so a friend of mine was like, come to CrossFit, you'll love it. And I went to my first class and we were doing squatting, and they just kept putting weight on my barbell and more weight and more weight and more weight. And I had strong legs, right? Being an athlete. And they're like, oh man, you're so strong. Like, you can just do the advanced workout with us. And that workout was 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats as fast as you could. And I made it. And then I couldn't straighten my arms for 3 days.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I was like, well, if I'm going to get fit, this is definitely going to be an effective one to do. And the gym I ended up joining invited me. They were a very good gym. And they said, oh, do you want to be on our team? And I was like, well, of course, that sounds fun. And I didn't quite know what I was getting myself in for on that sport, because the elite level of CrossFit is off the charts insane. Honestly.
Yeah.
So in the end, 3 sports, played in the Australian team for all of them, number 1 in the country and top 10 in the world for all 3.
What is it about sports at that level that draws you?
I mean, they're addictive for many reasons, and I think that's why it's so hard to extricate yourself from them. For me, the core driver is a sense of progress. You know, actually the moment that I retired from each sport is like the moment that I stopped feeling a sense of progress. But the other things that are addictive is like, I love being coached and that sense of accountability and the relationship with your coach. I love the dynamic with your teammates. There's nothing like going away with your national team and like everybody's worked so hard for that moment. And so you all understand each other so well. I love being in the zone when you play. I love those big moments on the big stages with a huge crowd against a team that you're not sure you can beat. I like the day-to-day rhythm of training and like showing up and trying to perfect your craft by 1% more.
Right.
And so there's many, many buckets that sports fills. It's hard to step away from it.
Right. I saw that you went from being a player to coaching trampoline for a while. And what was that transition like to move from player to coach?
I was doing both simultaneously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, lots of athletes do this because you don't get paid for any of these sports. And so coaching is actually, you know, you're already at the gym or at the beach. And so you're often coaching and training to sort of make ends meet. I think coaching, like being on both sides of the dynamic, taught me the magic of that relationship. Like you come to the work world and you don't feel the same magic often, right, with your leader or your manager. And so what is it about sport that is different?
Yeah.
I think in sport, like the core part of the dynamic from the coach's side is belief. They have unreasonable belief in you as an athlete. They set shared goals with you. They believe in your potential. And that feeling kind of like seeps through to the athlete and inspires them, right? From the athlete side, I think the core part of that dynamic is trust, right? Which shows up sometimes as obedience, like I'm going to do what my coach says, which can be a lost art in the working world. And just a sense of like, I'm placing my trust in this person. I believe that they have my best interests at heart. I think they're looking out for me. They're going to put me first. They want me to succeed. Right. And so the magic of that dynamic is probably what I learned being on both sides of it. And now when I'm leading a team or working in a team, I'm trying to bring the same dynamic with the work world as well.
Right. This is interesting because it makes me, you have talked about the athlete's mindset. And I'm curious, having been on both sides, how that influenced coming to that realization that as I'm entering this unique world of founder funding, helping with leadership, how that solidified the athlete's mindset for you. And speak a little bit also about the athlete's mindset, because I love that you've come at it as a way not just for business or sports, but for life. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, this is a broad question. I'll say 2 things. So I think first, athletes and founders have similar mindsets in many ways.
Right.
You have these very, very rare humans who are saying, I'm going to go after this crazy, seemingly impossible goal with minuscule odds of success, like 0.001 odds, right, of being a unicorn, of making the Olympics, all of that. I'm going to dedicate at least 10 years of my life to it, and I'm going to sacrifice, all of my free time, many of my friends, and, salary, lifestyle, etc., to go after that. Now, not many people make that choice and that decision, right? And so I respect and admire that about both athletes and founders. When I talk about athlete mindset, like that's a little bit of an umbrella term for, you know, what are the things that we learn from elite sport that we can apply to leadership and startups and business? And I think elite sport is a good testing ground because everything is magnified, right? High pressure, high stakes, quick feedback loops. And so you learn those lessons faster and then you can apply them in different realms, right? And so some of the things that, you know, typically I would say fall into the bucket of athlete mindset is, what does it mean to have high standards? How do standards drive culture? The coach-athlete dynamic that we spoke about before. A love and obsession for feedback. So all of these things fall within athlete mindset.
Wow. I know that you've been writing on it, and as you have gone from being an elite player, and when you entered into the world of business as a founder, I looked at one of your writings and I loved it so much because you were talking about you go from here to something that you've mastered into something that you haven't. And what was that like for you, with also maintaining that athlete mindset, but moving from that to that?
Tricky. Not as bad for me as it is for some athletes, though, right? I had both the blessing and the curse of not getting paid.
Right. You'd already been there. Yeah.
So I had a career while I was an athlete. I did like strategy and management consulting for almost a decade whilst I was playing sport.
Right.
And so when I retired from sport fully, it wasn't like I was starting at zero and being like, I don't even know how Google Calendar works, which, no joke, is something athletes face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I at least had the basics, let's say, but it's a very tricky identity shift because you are coming from like, I'm one of the best in the world at my craft. You know, I have this sense of mastery. People look up to me. I have security in where I am in this field. And then you switch to another field and not only are you crap at it, but also you look around at your peers and everybody is ahead of you, right? So you've gone from being the front runner to someone that's now chasing and trying to catch up a little bit in that new field. And so every athlete faces this because we all, you know, retire young, you know, in your 20s or 30s. And so whatever you do next, you're going to be the one at the bottom of the pile trying to climb the ladder, which is difficult when you've been in front your whole life.
Yeah. That seems like it would be a really interesting balance to have to strike for yourself. And what led you into wanting to do startups? And
I have changed careers many times.
Sounds like me. I've been there.
Okay. So I did like a decade of strategy and consulting work.
Okay.
After a decade, I was like, you know what? I'm making a bunch of PowerPoint slides that no one ever executes. And the real kicker was when one client hired me back 2 years later to write the same strategy they'd already hired me to write.
Wow.
And they hadn't implemented any of it. And they're like, can you come back and rewrite the strategy? And I was
Man.
What about the one from 2 years ago?
Right.
I was like, okay, I got to do something different. But I had no idea what. And a friend of mine was like, you should do startups. And I was like, well, what are startups? You know, the field is not as developed in Australia as it is here.
Okay.
And so he's like, oh, go and do this course. It was run by Antler. And they basically take 80 people that they think would make good founders, put you all in a room together for 3 months, teach you how startups work, and hope that you form a co-founding relationship. And then at the end of the 3 months, you can pitch for funding.
Right.
And I did that and realized I actually loved hearing about everybody else's ideas and helping them more so than working on my own. And so I figured, okay, probably a good path from here is investing.
Okay.
And so I jumped into venture capital investing.
Okay. How has that been for you? How has it been with the investing?
You said it with such skepticism.
No, because it's such an interesting thing to go from, I think I want to look at this and now I'm going to go into the investing. So how has that been? And I feel like there's an interesting mindset that comes with it because you did start looking at it from a founder and then
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth,
Right,
So
right.
like I worked at the top VC fund in Australia, Blackbird Ventures, and then I have my own startup that I co-founded with 2 other people, and then more recently I've gone back and led an accelerator.
Right.
So got back on the investing side. So I've bounced back and forth.
Right.
VC is an interesting industry. It's very hot at the moment. It's very sexy to say you're in VC. I don't know why. It's basically a sales job. Like
Right.
you are hustling all the time for deal flow and then convincing founders to take your money, which is obviously much easier to give away money than to ask for money.
Yeah.
But it's effectively a glorified sales job
Got
in
it.
some ways. The best parts about it are working with the founders, for sure.
Yeah.
I actually preferred running an accelerator program more than straight VC, because in VC, you find amazing founders, you build a relationship, you invest in them, and then they are off to the races without you.
Right.
With an accelerator program, you're investing so early. You know, for 60% of the founders, I'm the first check-in to the company, and I might be the difference for them going full-time for the first time, or like hiring their first team member. And then I run like a 3-month in-person intensive program. And so I spend so much time with them. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you just get more of the best part of the job, right? So yeah, I've enjoyed VC a lot. I've enjoyed investing. I think there's incredible people that work in VC. I think there's downsides and dark sides to the industry as well.
Right.
As there probably is to every industry.
Yeah, definitely. What have been some of the challenges that you've kind of faced from both sides, whether it's being as a founder or as a funder, and how have you dealt with them? Some of the things that are maybe obstacles or so forth, and how you rise above it.
I think one of the like tough things for me was the industry is not set up to coach more junior investors. And for a few reasons, I think. Now, if you go into VC, the incentives are set up that the partners get most of the carry, and like the associates and principals and analysts get a little bit at the bottom. And so if you get promoted all the way up to partner, every other partner gets less carry.
Got it.
Right? So there's not that much incentive to promote people all the way up in a firm. And so there's not that much incentive to coach people all the way up. I remember like in my first ever VC job, I got in and my manager was like, just try and meet 5 new founders a week. And I was like, cool. And do what?
Yeah.
You know, like that was it. And so it's very much like, here's the deep end, sink or swim.
Wow.
Figure it out, which I'm an athlete. I'm like, this is a horrifically inefficient way to learn, right? At least give me like the structure of it, so that then I can like iterate and build on. But I literally, like, that was all the coaching I got. And so, but that's not uncommon in VC. Yeah. I also think people that are in VC for a long time, it just distorts your thinking a little bit, or it runs the risk of that, right? Because all day you have people telling you, you know, founders who want money, you're so smart, you're very attractive, you know, like, thank you so much for your insights, like, you really, like, impact the industry. And then, like, you have 1 or 2 deals hit. And there's a temptation to, like, attribute what is, you know, sometimes luck to your own genius, because people are telling you all the time how good you are. And so, like, sometimes you see partners that have been in the industry for 10 or 15 years and just be a little bit distorted on the ego front.
Got it.
And, you know, the type of person attracted to VC is typically, like, has some high level of self-belief, is relatively introverted, likes to, like, geek out and think that they are smart. And so, like, this has a magnifying effect if you're in it for too long, which all compounds to say, like, oh, you know, you are talented rather than coachable. And so, like, my incentive to invest in coaching the next generation is relatively low.
Got it.
I feel like we're slightly off track.
Well, no, but I mean, so then how have you chosen to deal with that? Because you are obviously a natural coach. I mean, I can see that you are a natural coach, a natural mentor.
Yeah.
And so when you've been faced with it, how have you?
Okay. So first I had to get good.
Yeah.
And still to be determined if I am very good, because venture has long timelines, right? Like, we're going to still wait another 5 or 10 years to see some of those bets play out. But I was like, okay, if I'm not going to get coaching, what is the fastest way to get good? And that is experience. So I was like, I'm going to take hundreds of founder meetings, 5 times more than anyone else in my firm, so that I can learn this craft. So that's what I did first. Then as I built experience and sort of like learned what I was doing, I started to codify my own structure of like, how do you make investment decisions? I call this the 5 spikes framework.
Oh,
you
nice.
Hear it?
Yeah, I do. Definitely.
Okay, cool. So this is mostly for early stage venture, right? Later stage, the spreadsheet matters more. But in the early stage, you're basically not looking for founders who are well-rounded.
Okay.
You're looking for founders that have an outsized super strength or a spike.
Okay.
Typically, those spikes fall into one of 5 buckets. The first is team. Obviously, you need to love the founder regardless, but like a team spike might be like they're a second-time founder or they have a rare PhD or something like this. The second spike is a 10 times better product. And so is it not just 10% better? Is it 10 times better? A good example from Australia is Canva.
Yes.
If you think of like, if you've ever used Photoshop and how painful that is, and then you tried Canva and you're like, it's so intuitive.
Oh, I'm so fascinated by Canva. And I'd seen like something you'd even said about it. I love it. Okay.
So is the product 10 times better?
Yep.
That's the second spike. The third one is invention, mostly applies to deep tech companies. Did you invent something brand new? I just backed a biotech company that's like invented a new method of breast cancer detection.
Whoa.
Like wildly impressive. You can get your results in like 2 hours instead of 2 weeks. It's 10 times more sensitive. It's 4 times cheaper. Like they're crushing it.
Oh, man.
So that's the third one. The fourth one is traction. So sometimes you just have off the charts growth. One of my investments at Blackbird was a company called Leonardo AI. They actually got acquired by Canva. But I met the founders. They launched the product 2.5 months earlier, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have 60,000 users and another 100,000 on the wait list. I was
wow.
Like, I'm sorry, what?
Whoa.
Take my money. Yeah. So, sometimes they just blow your socks off on the traction.
Whoa, man.
It's not always revenue. It's sometimes like users, wait lists, interest, hype. Any of those categories can fall into traction. And the fifth one is like a little more amorphous, but it's unique vision. And so do you see the world differently to everyone else? And can you convince me that that future is likely? Maybe like some famous examples here is Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
Because who would have thought sleeping on a stranger's couch is like a legit business?
Right.
Yeah. And fair enough that tons of investors said no.
Yeah.
Right? But here we are today. So.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. And so taking all of that, because like I said, you are a natural coach, and I've seen that you're speaking more and mentoring more. What is it? You've kind of spoken to it, but what have you been learning about yourself and about even others as you've taken on more of that mentorship and coaching role so actively in business, especially?
Turns out I really like being in charge.
Okay, that works.
I learned that about myself.
Well, you've been mentoring a lot of, so now is that where you're focusing your attention on more, is the mentoring and the speaking and the coaching, or?
So for the past year, I've been running an accelerator, which my job is all mentoring and coaching.
Yeah.
I lead a small team. But then I've invested in 12 founders at once, and so I'm helping all the founding teams. And so that's the entirety of my job on one side, and the other part of my job is just asking everyone for favors. And so, legit. So, we had 120 mentors in the program. None of them get paid. They're all doing it out of free will. We're asking for sponsors and venues and support and introductions for the founders and getting their first customers and LOIs. And so, yeah, basically I'm coaching and I'm asking for favors.
Right.
Was my job. But I love leading my team and I love working with the founders. And so I think I scared my my program manager a little bit when I first joined Techstars, because I came in and I was like, hey, I love feedback. We're going to do tons of it. And most people hear the F word and they just freak out a little bit. And they're like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. And they're like frantically thinking back over like all the things they may have done wrong that week. And, then we, twice a week, one-on-ones, like and catch-ups, we do feedback. That's
great.
so often, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very careful, like I do all 3 types of feedback because most people are like, oh, it's all the things I did wrong. But feedback is appreciation, coaching, and evaluation. So appreciation, like, thank you, you went above and beyond. Here's how your work impacted the team. Coaching is, hey, you did this great. Here's how to be even 10% better. And evaluation is, here's how you rank relative to our expectations or your peers. And so you get all 3 types.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. Like a couple months in, she was like, she admitted, she was like, hey, I was kind of scared when you came in and you said, we're going to do feedback all the time. And she's like, but actually I love it now because I always know where I stand.
Yeah.
I never have any doubt, like what you think about me or my performance. And my rate of growth and improvement is so much quicker.
Yeah.
And so, this is one of the things I do, like with our team. I also just like run it like very high trust, very high transparency. So everybody knows everything in my team, and any idea like can come from anywhere and be, something that we go after.
Right. Feedback is incredibly valuable because so often you hear about people saying, I didn't even know, and suddenly I was blindsided, or I didn't know that you thought I was doing such a great job, or because we do need to know where we are. As a writer, you get that thing where people talk about that they've written a novel or they've written this, but it just stays somewhere else because they don't want to show it to anybody because they're too scared. And I learned really early on the importance of constructive criticism and what that means and how to give feedback. So I love that you do it so frequently. And
I always say feedback is a sign of care, not criticism, right? Because for me to give you feedback on your writing or your work, right? I mean, it takes time for me to think of it. It takes care for me to deliver it well. It takes me sharing my expertise with you. It takes trust that you're going to receive that feedback well. And so if I care about you, spend time with you, share my expertise and wisdom with you, and want you to succeed, is that a sign of criticism or care?
Yeah. No, I agree. That's excellent. That's excellent. You mentioned Techstars. How did Techstars come about?
I used to mentor for Techstars for a long time.
Okay.
Techstars used to have a sports tech program in Melbourne, so I mentored for them. And then when I was based out in the US, I was mentoring for the LA program. I spoke at the USC program. And so they came knocking on my door a year ago and said, hey, we need someone to run the Australia program. You've been a mentor for a long time. Would you consider it?
Wow. When did Techstars start as an accelerator?
Oh, like 19 years ago.
19 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Techstars actually coined the term accelerator.
Oh, that's so cool.
So they're really like the OG kind of program. And if you look globally now, I think you would say that like Techstars and Y Combinator are the 2 largest and most well-known accelerators that have backed the best companies.
Oh, wow. That's excellent. That's excellent. Now, who inspires you?
Many people. I think I most admire people that stay at the top for a very long time. I certainly felt this in sport. Like winning the first time is very hard. Very, very few people make it. But like staying at the top consistently, like, if I look at athletes, like someone like Roger Federer or Simone Biles, who like have had dominance for so long, it's way harder to win the second time.
Yeah.
Way more expectations, way more pressure. And I think you see those people in multiple fields as well, like people that do multiple startups and they all succeed, people that write multiple bestsellers. I think that they're the type of people that I'm just like, damn, so impressive.
Yeah, you're right. Staying up there is, it's really quite impressive. And it takes incredible fortitude. And people tend to forget that you don't just get there and just sit. You keep training. You keep pushing yourself harder, whatever the top of your game, whatever game that is, right? And I'm curious, as you look at the next step for you, what is next? Where do you go next?
Good question. So, I mean, just on your previous point, I think the hardest time to play well as an athlete is when you feel you should win.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
Right? You step onto the beach volleyball court, you're like, I know I'm better than this team. They're still good, but I'm better. I should win, gosh, it's hard to play your best then. It's like almost impossible to get in the zone. I'm sure that is true. You know, you're a writer, so it's like, oh, my first book did great. My second one should do great.
Right.
It's very, like, you can't get into the flow if you have that. And so that's why I say staying at the top is harder.
Yeah.
What is next? Great question. So Techstars in Australia is wrapping up.
Yeah.
We're recording this in February, so
Yeah.
we just announced it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's very bittersweet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, my priority is the founders first and making sure that they are looked after and have the support they need. I will do a lot more speaking and writing on athlete mindset all over the world.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to speak everywhere from the Paris Olympics to Necker Island to South by conferences to all over Australia. And I have a few options on the table, so stay tuned.
So you mentioned writing, and I love the athlete's mindset, and there's so much that you have experienced and that you've brought to the table, and you probably even know what I'm about to ask you, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Have you thought about a book?
I have. So my mum is an author. She has 25 books published.
So exciting.
Speaking of people that stay at
So
the top.
impressed by that.
Yes. Ironically, her advice to me has been never write a book.
I understand why she says it too. Yep.
Yes, well, you understand the economics of publishing, right? Because you spend an entire year writing a book and it's like, cool, you made 10 grand.
Yep.
And so this is probably why I have not done it, but I actually have been thinking this might be the year to do it.
Yeah. You have, just as someone who's read your writings, just so you know, I mean, you bring a lot of really great insight. And
Thank you.
I really love reading what you write. So
I can count on one sale.
yeah, you can count on one sale. I'm so there.
Yeah.
Just let me know.
Okay.
And also I'd want to talk to you again because, you know, I know that you have a lot that's coming up and that you do want to do so much more. Is there anything else that you want to share? Anything that you think you want to make sure people know about you that we don't know or...
Well, I think you wanted to ask me about advice for founders.
Yes, I
right?
do. I do. So, you know, which is part of our BizFit Minute, right? And so...
Yeah. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it. So we're
Okay.
going to do a little BizFit Minute. This is our fun little thing that Christie's going to share some of her 5 tips and tools for founders for everybody out there.
So this is for founders. Since I work with so many early stage founders, I'd say the first thing is don't build your business for VC. I get asked this a lot. What do VCs look for? Should I get this type of customer or that type of customer? And what will VCs care about? No. Build a great business first.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does not mean you stay in the startup and VC world. VC can be a hammer looking for a nail, and they say every business should be a startup. Not true. You can build an incredible business that does a few 100,000, $1 million, 10 million, own 100% of it, have an incredible lifestyle, and that might be the best path for you.
Right.
So first, build a business that is just a great business and that suits you. Stress less about the VCs.
Very smart. Okay.
Okay, if you are going to go the VC path, number 2 is the only purpose of your deck is to get a meeting. And so I have seen well over 3,000 decks in the last few years. And there's a temptation to put everything in your business in your deck. Not necessary. So earlier we spoke about the 5 spikes.
Yeah.
And so lead with your spike. You know, if your spike is traction, that should be the second slide in your deck, right after what you do. If your spike is unique vision, put that right at the front. If your spike is invention, put that right at the beginning of the deck. And so your deck is only like 10 to 15 slides max. 25 words a slide for the early stage is totally fine. The purpose of your deck, I think there's some stats that show investors on average spend 93 seconds looking at your deck.
Oh, wow.
And so the purpose of your deck is to get a meeting, lead with your spike in your deck.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Once you get the meeting, I think the best tip here is like, think about the power dynamics. You're a founder, you're coming in asking for money, you're automatically below the investor in the power dynamics. And so your job is to bring those things level, right?
Right.
The more level they are, the more likely someone is to give you money, right? How do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, one thing is to think about how much time you're talking. If the investor's asking you questions and you're answering, you're speaking 90% of the time. If you're asking them questions, they're speaking. And everyone likes the sound of their own voice, so they're going to end up liking you more too. And so VCs see hundreds and thousands of deals a year. You're actually crazy not to tap into their expertise. And so you should go into that meeting and say, hey, hey, you've seen tons of B2C companies. What are you seeing that's working on the marketing front now that I could apply in my business? And like, they're going to respect you more for that. And you're leveling the power dynamics a little bit more. And then I'll say my final tip is calendar density solves everything.
Okay.
And so especially early stage, right? You go into a VC meeting and they're like, have you got a lead? God, I hate this question. Hate it. So it's like just designed to trap founders, right? How's your round going? All of those questions. If you can go and answer those questions and be like, hey, like we've just kicked off our fundraise. You're one of our like preferred investors, so we're coming to you first. So, we're only just starting the round, but just letting you know, I've got 30 VC meetings next week and another 30 the week after. You just totally flip the power dynamics here. And, honestly, people raise on an idea with zero traction, zero team. And how they do it is calendar density.
Right.
And people with great businesses and incredible traction and all the right metrics who like string out their fundraise over months and months and months with 1 or 2 meetings a week don't raise.
Yeah.
Even though their business is objectively better on paper.
Yeah.
And so calendar density.
Wow. That's it's an interesting thing because it's the same thing. I worked in Hollywood for a long time in the pitch, right? So if you had somebody who came to you and said, just so you know, I'm pitching this to 8 more people, your thought is, oh my God, okay, wait a minute. I don't want to lose out to them, especially when you know that who they are is definitely, you don't want them to get it.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think like the number one emotion that drives investors is FOMO.
Yeah.
And I can say this as an investor. I'm like, it definitely like influences the mindset and psychology.
Yeah,
so
it really
just
does.
Use it as a founder.
That's great. I don't want to be left out. Yeah, that's perfect. That's great. Okay, now we have the rapid 5.
Ooh, let's go.
Okay. What did you want to be?
How rapid?
It doesn't have to be rapid.
Okay.
It's just like we'll call it the 5.
Okay.
How about that?
Great.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Olympic gold medalist.
Ooh.
And there's this funny story in my family. I think I may have been 10 or so, reading the newspaper. We used to get the Sunday newspaper with all the job ads in it. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there with my mum going through, and we were like circling the ones that looked interesting. And I like circle this big ad, and it's like, oh, you like problem solving and strategic decisions and like leading a team and like being creative. And she's like, oh, what job is that? CEO.
Oh my gosh. We already knew.
Yes.
We already knew. Christie already knew.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you won the bronze, right?
I've won like international gold medals in various things. I had bronze at the Youth Olympics.
Yes.
I got 4th at the World Beach Games. That's a little bit. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I love it. Okay. Then what always makes you smile? Without fail, just always makes you smile.
One of my favorite things is hiking. And so climbing to the top of the mountain, I think it makes you feel, it puts everything in perspective, right? It makes you feel a little insignificant, that your problems don't really matter, which is very freeing.
Yeah.
And there's something about type 2 fun, the hard work of climbing the whole mountain, hiking all day. And then you get to the top and you just like, you have your sandwich, bit of chocolate, and you just like sit at the top and enjoy the view. Like, this is one of my most favorite things ever.
Do you have a favorite place that you hike?
Patagonia. I spent a month in Patagonia last summer.
That's my bucket list. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'll go with you.
Okay, good.
It's so good.
Yay. Okay, good. I have a friend. Oh, I love that. What do you know now as an adult that you wish you knew as a kid?
I've done a complete 180 from childhood to adulthood on putting people first. Mm-hmm. I used to be very, very introverted and very, very task orientated. as a kid. I am completely the other way now, right? Like, I think I learnt that all things get done by people. And so building relationships and having leverage with other people is like how you do much greater things in life. And also all of the joy comes from doing it with other people.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I've done a 180 on.
Okay, cool. I know that I'm going to do this. I'm going to cheat.
Oh.
I have to look down. I know, I'm such a bad girl.
I know what it is. Let's go.
Okay, what's your guilty pleasure?
Chocolate.
I heard you say the chocolate, and you grabbed the chocolate.
Easy.
Do you have a favorite type of chocolate? Have you done any of the blonde
The expensive
and pinks?
kind.
Yeah.
When I was at university, I had a part-time job in a chocolate shop.
Oh
like a
my
very
gosh.
nice one. And thank God it was part-time, or I would have been a chubby little athlete.
Oh man.
And my boss was just like, eat whatever you like. I want you to be able to recommend the chocolates to the customers. And he's probably also glad that job was part-time because I ate so much, but it has ruined me for all cheap chocolate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You know, as a kid, it was really weird. As a kid, I remember I wasn't a big chocolate lover because there was a lot of, candy store, when you go to the cash wrap and you get a chocolate or whatever. And it always kind of tasted waxy. And
Well, you're American.
yes.
Americans don't have good chocolate.
No. But then I got into cooking school and I started using really hardcore, amazing chocolate. And that changed my whole life. So yes, when I cook and I bake my chocolate stuff, it's very expensive. My sons make fun of me, but it's worth it.
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, final one, cat or dog?
I don't have any pets because
Okay.
I travel so much. But interestingly, when I was running our startup, I was effectively in the US for a couple of years, but not getting paid, right?
Right.
Just early stage founding a company.
Yep.
And so I was trying to save money everywhere, and I ended up pet sitting my way across the country. And so I have looked after many dogs and many cats and guinea pigs and a few other random animals. So I like them all, to be honest. If I had to get an animal, I think I'd go a cat.
Okay.
They make you earn their affection.
They do. They do. They make you work. But once you get it,
I know.
it's the most
Then it's true love.
beautiful thing. Oh, I love that you pet sat around the country. That's so cool.
Traveling is so much cheaper than people think. Like, lots of people say, oh, I'd love to travel. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. You can do it. You can actually make money when you go traveling. If you have a home here, you like rent it out, sublet it, etc., and go somewhere cheaper.
Yeah.
You could make money while you're away. And so you don't need to stay in a hotel. You can stay with friends. If you stay long term, it's like much, much cheaper per night.
Yeah.
And so I've been to over 60 countries. I love the different cultures that you find, the beautiful landscapes, the different cities. And so I heard this crazy stat that 70% of Americans don't have a passport, which makes me so sad because, we say America's the greatest country in the world, but there are many other countries that are much better at different aspects of life. And so I wish more people would do it.
Yeah. Travel is a really beautiful way of engaging with others and understanding each other. So I always felt really fortunate that from a really early age, I had a passport. We traveled a lot as a family, and I agree. It's an incredible gift. It really is. Oh, I love this. Thank you so much, Christie, for coming and hanging out. I love that we can hear the rain in Los Angeles. You don't get to hear that often, but I love that we get to hear it. And thanks for popping by. And thank you for joining us, F5 Collective, Women in Business. We're going to check in with Christie again, trust me. And she and I are going to go to Patagonia. And just so you know, so stay tuned for that. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.